Joining me now is our friend California Congresswoman Sara Jacobs. She serves on the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committees. Good to see you for the first time here in the new year, Congresswoman. So the White House is pointing to video that the ICE agent himself filmed on his cell phone during the encounter. First of all, would he be filming her if she posed a threat of violence to him? Is there any training or safety law enforcement standard allowing an officer to both hold a phone, making a recording in one hand, and a lethal weapon, a gun, in the other? I mean, I'm curious how you respond to Kristi Noem's claims that he was properly trained and he acted in self-defense.
I mean, look, I think Kristi Noem has been saying absolutely egregious things, from calling Renee Nicole Good a domestic terrorist to saying that this shooting was justified. You know, Renee was 1 year older than me. She was dropping her son off. She had literally had stuffed animals in her glove compartment, right? That's who we're talking about.
And the family dog. I remind people, on one video, you can see the family dogs in the backseat, right?
And the last words that she said were, "I'm not mad at you." And so I think the idea that this person, one, as you said, they should never be filming and holding a firearm at the same time, and two, that actually he feared for his life, is completely ridiculous. Like, I've looked at all of those videos. She's clearly turning her wheel to leave, to follow the directions that she was given to leave the premises. And I'm very concerned about the fact that they're just trying to cover this up, but also what it means for all of the recruitment and vetting and training that they're doing of these hundreds of new ICE officers that they're going to be hiring with all of the money that was given to them in the one big ugly bill.
And in terms of the investigation, the Trump administration is barring Minnesota officials from playing any kind of role in it into Good's death. Is this an attempt to shield federal officers from accountability? And can Congress ensure that this killing is indeed thoroughly, properly investigated and examine whether ICE's use of force standard is leading to people getting shot?
Well, look, first of all, I think if they're so sure that their account of events are right, they should want another investigation, because the evidence would show that. And I think the fact that they're not letting the Minnesota authorities investigate really is a tell that they know that their account of events is bogus. The second part is that, you know, ICE does not have a local law enforcement mandate. They should never have even been stopping cars. They only have an immigration enforcement mandate. And so, like, even the idea that they were talking to her to begin with is really problematic and is probably illegal and outside of their jurisdiction. And so I, along with many other Democrats, are looking at all the ways that we can constrain DHS, including putting real fencing and other constraints in the DHS budget, or withholding our votes if there aren't. And I do think Kristi Noem should resign or be impeached.
I was going to ask you about that next, because several of your colleagues are calling to impeach her. But look, knowing it is unlikely to succeed, so is resignation the preferable option for you? I mean, would impeachment just really be about accountability, messaging to voters that Democrats are fighting back against a dangerous immigration agenda?
Look, I'm always nervous that a failed impeachment is worse than no impeachment at all, because I think we saw that the two failed impeachments of Donald Trump actually only emboldened him. So I don't take this call lightly, but I do think that my Republican colleagues need to be put on the record that if this is something that they support or not. I mean, Kristi Noem is wildly unqualified. She is literally disregarding court orders, including by not allowing members of Congress to go into ICE facilities when both the law and a court order have said they have to let us in. And she is, using violence and excusing it when she should be doing a thorough investigation and holding any officer accountable that uses violence unnecessarily.
The administration, Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, all claiming ICE is targeting dangerous criminal aliens. But recent reports, including a November Cato Institute study, shows the vast majority of those arrested have no criminal convictions nor pending criminal charges. What are your constituents saying about agents potentially coming into their communities and their aggressive tactics while covering their faces so they can't be identified?
Yeah, I represent San Diego. We're a border community, so we know better than most how important immigrants are to our community and to our economy. And it is so true. Those statistics are exactly the same ones that we've been seeing in San Diego, right? The majority of people they are picking up have no criminal record. They are going to places of work, which means people are going to work and trying to, give to society. They literally in San Diego are picking people up at their green card interviews while they are going to do the right thing and follow the legal process. Those are the kinds of people they're picking up. And I've talked to a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump, and even they don't think this is the right way to do things, right? This is not what people voted for. People voted for going after the criminals, sure, but that's not what he's doing. He's going in and tearing families apart and tearing communities apart. And, we've had so many instances of U.S. citizens, legal permanent residents getting caught up in this because ICE is basically an unaccountable force at this point.
Let me ask you one more question about something that's developing and it's of concern. It's relative to Iran. The Wall Street Journal reports President Trump will meet with senior officials Tuesday to discuss options for responding to Iran protests, including military strikes. And today, Iran explicitly threatened U.S. forces anywhere in the region, as well as Israel, after Trump warned the U.S. may attack Iran in response to its violent crackdown on economic protests that are roiling the country right now. And that's where a U.S.-based human rights group today says more than 500 people have been killed. Are you concerned this saber rattling on both sides could drag the U.S. into a wider regional war without congressional authorization?
Absolutely. Look, the Iranian people have every right to protest and have every right to choose their own government. And the regime should not be killing people for, protesting and using their voice. But at the same time, I'm very concerned that if the United States decides to go in militarily, it will not only create chaos and a vacuum that we can't control what happens next, but also it will discredit the protesters and feed into the regime's narrative that these are just protesters that are being, goaded on, paid for by the Americans to threaten the regime. And instead, it's really, really important that these protesters maintain their legitimacy with the Iranian people, because at the end of the day, it has to come from within Iran what's going to happen next. And that means the Iranian people, not the United States, not Israel, not any other country, should decide for them.
Okay. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, good to see you. See you again soon. Thank you.